Welcome to Pivot Points, a new series featuring some of the world's most successful women, candidly sharing their stories and insights about how they made it to the top and how you can too. Hosted by Perry Yeatman, a straight-talking global executive and award-winning author who created the career and life of her dreams and now wants to help other ambitious women do the same.
Welcome. This is Perry Yeatman, host of Your Career, Your Terms, Pivot Points. My next guest is someone I only recently met, but immediately liked and respected. She was literally born into her role as the third generation head of a family business. But in her case, that in no way suggests she didn't fully earn her spot. She is smart, candid, and committed. Not to mention open-minded and self-aware. She's frankly the kind of person I'd both trust with my career and choose to grab an iced tea with after work. No wonder so many people want to work for her and her company. Please join me in welcoming Cindi Bigelow, President and CEO of Bigelow Tea. Welcome, Cindi.
Well, thank you, Perry. Very excited to have an opportunity to chat.
Oh, and I'm so excited to talk to you. Not only do I love Bigelow Tea, as I was sharing with you, I am a huge tea fan. But, It's not that often that we get to talk to heads of family businesses. And they are such an excellent career opportunity for people that I just really want to make sure that young women are thinking about family companies when they're thinking about where they want to build the careers and lives of their dreams. So
a family company is a jewel. You're 100% right.
I agree. I agree. A great opportunity. And so everybody has to start somewhere. I know that because, of course, your name is Bigelow, you had a slightly different start perhaps than others. But, could you tell us, did you always want to go into the family business? Did you always want to be the CEO? Like, how did it come about? And if you had a different dream, how did you end up where you did?
Well, to be honest, even though my parents said they did not know this, I did not have a different dream. At 16 years old, when I was in high school and I saw they were offering marketing classes, I said, I need to take that. And they were like, why? I said, because this is what I want to do. So in high school, I was taking marketing classes. In college, marketing and finance classes. But then I worked for Joseph E. Seagram's and Sons in sales for 2 years, which was fantastic opportunity. And that was definitely a male world that I was in. I learned a lot from that. And then I went back to graduate school, sales and marketing, and then I called them, and they said it was a complete shock. I said, okay, ready to come into the family business. And they said, what? But I just never thought of anything else because, in my opinion, why would you want to do anything else? You have this amazing, amazing little jewel. Why would you not want to run it?
Yeah, no, I would agree. And it's located in a fabulous place, and it's got, from the articles I read about your respect for your dad and what a great person he was and what a great role model he was. I mean, a lot of family businesses, that's the big issue. I think there's two things I've read about. One is the family politics and how do you figure that out? And the second one is usually it is the third generation. So you're proving the statistics wrong, but it is the third generation where it kind of goes off the rails. So,
only about 3 or 4%. But we had our troubles as well, don't get me wrong. But we always kept the business in front of ego. So that's what really helped us for sure. And for me, what I loved is he was such a great family man, right, and such a great businessman. I thought, well, if you had the opportunity to be both, why would you not want a business that you can be both with, a family person and a business person?
Mm-hmm. And talk about a message that should be resonant for women, right? Because isn't that one of the biggest issues that we all struggle with? I know that you have kids, I have kids, a lot of the women listening have kids. And so I want to transition into that kind of mid-career point, because mid-career, and literally that can be anywhere kind of 30 to 50 almost, it is all about juggling. And it may be about caregiving for elder parents, it may be about kids, but how did you make that work, even though it's a family business, even though you had a great role model? I know there were still choices and compromises to be made. So how did you make that all work?
Well, for me, which was really fantastic, and it is a luxury that we do offer women or men, but we offer women at Bigelow Tea, is when my children were born, I went to a extended 3-day. So I worked about 12, 13 hours, 3 days a week, and then I worked home, as you would imagine, another 10, 15 hours a week as well. So I was able to put in what I needed to, which is, 50, 60 hours at that point in my career, but also be a good parent and focus. You can be a good parent working full-time as well. But So for me, I was able to do both, and it was the best of both worlds. And it is something that we offered other women. And many of the women on the team, when they had children, they went to a 3 or 4 day work week. So it was for about a 10-year period. And it was just a godsend that I had that opportunity for sure, so that I could be in the classroom when I wanted to. But I think what women have, which is a great skill set, even if they don't get that luxury of that long 3 days, is we're wonderful planners and schedulers. And so, if you want to be in the classroom on Tuesday at 9 o'clock every week to read to your kid, you can plan that. You can put the hours in around it, but you put it in your schedule, you make it happen. And I think that was really important. I wanted to be engaged as a parent. My father was constantly engaged. Obviously, my mother was as well. So it really is something that I hold near and dear to me, that as a family business, we're allowed to have those kind of movements for all of our employees, not just family members.
And what role did you, one of the choices that everyone has said, one of the most important choices you make in life is, of course, picking your spouse, someone who is up for your dream, if you will, and at least willing to be a partner in that. And then the other question I had with regard to caregiving is, how did you buy support? Was it daycare? Was it how did you figure out childcare for when you were at the office? So those kind of two key pieces, which is your spouse and the childcare that isn't one of the two of you. Yeah, well, from a spousal perspective, I just divorced after 27 years, so I can't tell you that I mastered that one. I'm so sorry. I will tell you, no, it's, you know what, it's part of life. It's not a fun part of life. It's a terrible thing. I could be a counselor for not divorcing. I believe that in all of my heart, that you do not have to do that. But in our particular case, we were just very different people, and it wasn't the businesses that got in the way. It was just philosophies and perspective of good communication. So that had nothing to do with business. And I do think having the right spouse is a wonderful dream and that you can aspire toward. And if you really communicate from the beginning, really honestly communicate from the beginning, I think you can get through almost anything. We were not able to. So I have to put an X next to the success on the spouse. On the caregiving, I was very, very blessed. I mean, I've had their first caregiver, a lovely woman, Lydia, who's still in my life as family and comes for the holidays, where I just worked with an agency back then. Everything wasn't online in those days, and she lived with me for 5 years. Then I had another young woman who lived on and off with me for the next 5 years, and then literally, I'm not kidding you, I've had someone for the last 14 years, even though my kids have gone to college. She doesn't live with me. Flo, everyone knows Cindi knows Flo. And she has been in my life as well. And it's not just for the kids' perspective, who she saw them all the way through high school. It's also for me to be able to live the life that I need to live in terms of work, but able to also maybe have a dog or two, fish or two. So I've been very, very successful. But to me, those kind of relationships, I look at that as a marriage. I know many people will say, what are you talking about? But you have to put in a lot of time. If you want a successful person to partner with you to help raise those kids, I think it's really, really, really important. And I can tell you both Lydia, Nicole, and Flo, of my 25 years of having people help me, they are still family. I'm still close. And it's been a blessing in my life, and it's taught me a lot about relationships because, to have someone work for you for 14 years in your house, again, not living there, whew, but you gotta work at it like you should everything in life, You didn't get an A in school if you didn't work at it, right? Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I'm so glad you shared that because the one other question to follow up I'm going to have for that is, did you ever feel guilty? Because I know that not everybody has the resources that we are lucky to have, but the truth is that our biggest problem as women is not a resource question. It's guilt and the willingness to ask for help and to recognize that nobody, I saw that you had given a talk at a series called Having It All, right? And my philosophy has always been, you can have it all, but you can't have it at the same time. And you can't have it if you don't ask for help, right? It's just not possible to do it all yourself, even if you know what I also say to that statement is you have to define what have it all means, right? Absolutely. What have it all to one person, I'm not a huge fan of the have it all thought process because I'm not sure what have it all means. If you're looking at the person next to you and they have X car, X house, or phenomenal husband, or 6 kids and great career, not a career, they work out all the time, that's fine. Everyone's going to have something different. You have to decide early on, what are the top 3 things that you want? Is it
is that you want to have a family and you want to be there for them. You want to have a successful career. You want to stay in shape. You want to be involved with the community. Pick your 3 or 4 things. Don't pick a dozen. And then stay true to those things over time. And I think that's what really, for me, is what was important. I had those 3 things. Obviously, marriage did not make it, but it was to have that family. And I have 2 amazing kids that I'm so blessed to have a wonderful career, get involved with the community, and also be able to stay athletic in some capacity. Those are my things. And, so, yeah, I stuck with them the best I could the whole time.
Yeah, and it worked. And I'm so glad that you mentioned, because my magic number has always been 3. I've been saying this, I don't know how many episodes I've said, 3 is it, right? You got to pick your top 3 things, because more than that, I mean, of course you're going to do more than those things, but I find more than that, you really can't be excellent. You will fall off your focus.
That's right.
And then you just beat yourself up when, of course, nobody can do more than 3 or, as you say, 5 at the most. So excellent. So let me ask you now a question a little bit about, you said, in certain places you'd worked very much in a man's world, and even coming into a family business, every woman is unfortunately more harshly scrutinized than their male peers, and not just on performance, but it's everything from looks to parenting to, whatever.
Absolutely.
And so how have you handled that? How did you define your way, find your style, or did you just try to play a man's game? Like, what did you do with that whole scrutiny?
It's so funny that you asked that. I talked to so many women about that. And the first thing I have to say is you start off by saying, thank God I'm a woman. You start off by saying, thank God all the wonderful skill sets God gave me to have and to use, okay? And they are amazing skill sets that are so essential. Now, are you a male? No. Do you have traits like a male? Sure. Do they have traits like a female? Sure. Are there set traits for either? No, they're not all set traits. Mm-hmm. But you just have to recognize and be happy and blessed that you're a woman, and then go forward accordingly. So, for me, I have had amazing experiences that taught me. When I worked for Seagram's, I would make sales calls. Guys would just look at me, turn their back, and barely even talk to me. Now, you have to just learn from that in a positive way. You have to say, okay, all right, what do I need to do? This hurts. This makes me feel bad. How do I get around it? I've had sales calls at Bigelow Tea where they just turn their back to me and say, yeah, what do you need? I've been in boardrooms. It's all males as far as the eye can see in black suits and dark blue suits. It's just part of how it is, but you need to just stay true to who you are. You need to honor that perhaps, each person, I never like to say male versus female, each person you have to work with individually, whether it's 10 males and 10 females in the room. You have to find out what that person is about and how to work with that person, and then be true to who you are. And I always say, when you do that and you have the right spirit of it, oh my God, do people turn around. I was on a panel in Chicago. Truth be told, the male that was on the panel with me was clearly a chauvinist. I got it. I saw it. I got it. It's not like I've been around the block before. But within a short period of time of honoring what he had to say and then adding it in a way that was also, had a lot to add to the conversation, but also always bringing it back in a respectful way for that individual, but certainly not backing down, just being respectful and strong. And within a short period of time, that guy was unbelievable. Unbelievable. He was like, working with you was great, blah, blah, blah. And it was all sincere, totally sincere. So, when I hear women raise their hands and I'm talking to women and they're like, what about this and what about that? I say, well, first of all, you sound like you got a chip on your shoulder. If you got a chip on your shoulder, you're starting right there in a negative place. You got to stop with that. You just got to understand it's part of it. Now, if it's an environment that's so bad, you've got to leave it. Now, that's not always easy to do if you've got to raise your family. But otherwise, I can tell you, if you come from it with the right spirit, you understand the differences in individuals, male or female, it makes no difference, and you work with them in the best way because you're very clever, because you're very astute, because you've got amazing skill sets, you will get to where you need to go. It might not be in the place you're in right now because maybe it's just an environment you can't get around, but you then need to, unfortunately, try the best of your ability without putting your family in harm's way to find that environment where you can be all of who you are. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Yes, but I love it. You said it great. You nailed it. So I think that's a wonderful answer, and thank you for sharing that. Let's talk a little bit about transitions. I know you have spent the majority of your career in one company, and you are now the president and CEO, but when you had to make a big transition, I mean, obviously you've made personal transitions, but now also even in your career, even really confident, capable women seem to get unsettled And I just wondered what advice you would have for somebody who's either facing a major career transition or a life transition or trying to create a second act.
Well, let me tell you, I dealt with a lot of transitions. I dealt with transitions here where, I was incredibly disliked because I was a family member. I was incredibly disliked because I was a female. I was incredibly liked because I was a family member. I was incredibly liked because I was a female. So I think all those experiences are everywhere that you go. And again, you had to stay true to mission. I've always said, whoever I'm talking to, stay true to mission. Do not let ego get in the way. Mm-hmm. And so if you have to know what's important to you and who you are. And believe me, going through a divorce, that'll really teach you to say, who are you and what are you made of? But you really need to do that in what you're experiencing. So I know there was one point I was looking at transitioning to a position inside Bigelow, and I kind of became the troubleshooter. So when it was a difficult position, I would say, I'd like to have an opportunity to run that division for a little bit and see if we can turn that around. And, I would hear people say, well, you're just going to fire everyone when you get there. And I'm like, fire everyone when I get there? I haven't done that yet. But you have to live with what people say and think. And if they think it, they believe it. And you have to understand that. And I'd say, and you have to be able to communicate your way through that. Listen to what they say, talk about those concerns, embrace all of those concerns, and walk them through what your real game plan is. And then live that walk and talk every single day so they see who you are as a person. So if you're thinking that this is not the right environment for you and you need to make a transition, and in your heart of hearts that's the right thing you need to do, then you need to go all in, and you need to try to find out what do you want before you make that move. Who are you and what's important to you? So I've just tried to stay, my advice is always just try to stay true to who you are. Mission first over ego. Ego to me is you'll make wrong moves, you'll burn bridges, you will not help the cause. You just got to really stay true to who you are and what the mission is that you guys are all working on in whatever organization you're in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's funny. I happen to know you're a Kellogg graduate, Kellogg alum, yep. And the whole idea of high impact, low ego. I just thought that was, it's the only business school I've heard that actually talks in those kinds of words. And the leaders I've met from Kellogg are largely that way. And you just expressed it again, that ego is, you need a healthy degree of confidence, et cetera. But when Absolutely. Your ego gets too big, it just gets in the way. And it gets in the way of your own success, not just, other people.
I think, again, I'm sure I could be debated well on this particular point, but I agree with you, Perry. I think there is aggression and there's strength and there's drive. Those are not ego. To me, ego is very, very different. Ego is when it's more important than you win or you look like you win than actually the organization wins. Mm-hmm. The mission wins. And I have worked very, very, very hard to ensure that it's more about being driven, motivating, pushing, being a thorn, but all for the right reasons, because you never lose sight of what your mission is.
You're exactly right. And I think particularly, not only for women, but I think for women who have strong personalities, right, which is almost every woman that gets to the top, because too many people will automatically put you in that hole. It gets you out of the hole, like, are you aggressive? Are you assertive? Are you, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, if you are so clear and transparent and everybody sees that you are in it for the organization, not just in it for you, then everything else kind of falls away, and they're willing to say, okay, so yeah, she's pushy, and yeah, she has big ideas, and yeah, she's trying to change us. But they know it's not just, you're not doing this as a power trip, right? If it's a power trip, nobody's with you. If it is about the organization...
But the other thing, Perry, I see, and it could be male and female as well, but, I know when I've spoken at large settings for women, they'll raise their hand and they'll say, I'm a control freak. I know you're a control freak. How do you deal with that? And I'll say, whoa here. Hey, I'm not a control freak. And I do feel, whether, again, male or female, I'm not a big fan of control freaks, because I really think that you're really limiting the power of the team when you are a control freak. That doesn't mean you don't want perfection. You don't drive to a better place. That's different. But if you're trying to drive them to the exact place that you're at, and you need to make sure they're getting there on your terms, I also think that's incredibly limiting as a leader. And you know what? Eventually, no one's going to want to follow that. And you're not going to get the best people. I am so blessed. The team that I have right now blows me away. the power of some of these new people, because our company, we've all worked together for like 30, 35 years. So my entire executive staff has turned over in the last 5 years.
Wow.
Talk about frightening.
Mm-hmm.
And my leaders would say to me, this is going to be a big issue, Cindi. And I'd say, I understand it's a big issue. What would you like me to do? Panic about it or take it one step at a time? So I had to go about building my new executive team. Over the last 5 years, there's literally now, as of July, there'll only be one left of the original team, all retired except for one. And I just told my executive team the other day, I'm pinching myself, literally pinching myself with the people that are working here. And they've been around the block a lot. They've been at very large, successful companies. And they come here going, it is refreshing. It is real. It's genuine. It's refreshing. We're involved. We're engaged in everything, and we're being heard. Yes, do I ultimately make the final decisions on certain things? Of course, but not without absolute team counsel, team conversation. So it's important about that control freak that if you are, you have to really think about that. I think it's very limiting. And I don't know, Perry, if you've had experience with that, but it's not a good quality in my opinion.
Well, the truth is I've struggled with it myself. I definitely was a control freak for probably the first decade and a half of my career. And I never trusted anybody to do anything as well as I could. And I finally realized that the number one person holding me back was me.
Is you.
Right.
Yep.
Because, and I switched my focus to outcome. If you focus on the outcome, and yes, it had to be
mission.
ethical, it had to be, right, exactly. So you had to do it within a certain frame, right? You couldn't just completely make up your own thing. But within that frame, then I had to focus on, did they get the job done? And is it done well enough? And is it giving the right impact or the right outcome? And then if it is, the fact that they didn't do it your way, shut up, right? Just be quiet and be happy and proud that they figured it out and they did it their way and it worked. And,
but also family businesses, that's a big issue, right? Why do family businesses not make it to the next generation? And I think it's because you're dealing with the current leadership that is probably holding on for dear life because they've built it, they know it, no one can do it as well as them. And so for the next generation coming in from a family perspective, again, male or female, you've really got to understand that and you've got to work with that. You've got to explain it, have good conversation about it, because that's often what you're dealing with. You're dealing with someone who has a control freak personality who does not want to pass the baton.
Exactly. And that's the other big lesson that I learned. It was really interesting to me that my biggest promotions came when I stopped wanting to be promoted. Right. And it was like, how is that? And women go, but that's not the way it should work. Right. And what I realized is, so I'd already worked in over 50 countries. I'd lived all over the world. I had taken big risks and delivered. Right. So I had a good track record. But it was actually when I had kids and I said, okay, you know something? If I never accomplish anything bigger than this, I'm good. I have done a lot. I feel proud of myself. I want to be a great mom. I want to try and be a great spouse, whatever. So I'm not pushing anymore for bigger. I'm not pushing for me. And that shift of letting go of some of the control and recognizing and making that shift, as you said, for the team and the organization versus just for me, those two things actually made me more promotable than ever. And my career took off and I thought, you've got to be kidding.
Because people now want to work for you.
Yes.
Yeah, they want to work for you. And believe me, you need people to want to work for you.
Right.
They maybe have to work for you because they need the money and they need a job, but you want them to work for you. You want them to say, I want to follow her. I will follow her wherever she goes. I trust her. I believe in her because she believes in me.
Right.
That's essential for good leadership.
Yep, agreed. And I can't say that I learned that from a book, and I can't say that I learned it early, but I learned it, and it really works. So
I love how honest you are about that. That's so important.
Well, yeah, self-awareness is one of my better qualities. So, anyway, okay, so let's talk now about the executive level. When you get to the top, everybody knows, the story is it's lonely at the top, but even more so for women because there's just so few women at the top. So, and you came up through a family business where I'm assuming that it's not very easy to kind of blend in, right? Because everybody knows who you are.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. You do stand out.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know whether you had a mentor or a sponsor coming up or just how did you create a support network? Who do you go to if you need help or you just want to be able to let your hair down and scream? How do you do that? How do you stay sane?
That's a good point. Well, first of all, in terms of mentors, I try to learn along the way, and I do this when I talk to kids in high school and college. I say, guys, especially in high school, I said, you don't maybe like every teacher and you don't like every subject, and so you don't put the effort and energy in. I'm going to tell you that's BS. And the reason why it's BS is because you're not going to love every boss and you're not going to love every assignment. What are you going to do then? Oh, I think I'll get a D on that one. I don't think I'll go to class on that one. I mean, are you kidding me? So, I mean, I say you can learn just as much for those that you work for or work around that you don't like as the ones you do like. So for me, I was constantly picking up nuggets along the way of nope, yep, nope. That was really important. But then I stumbled across a lovely, lovely woman, Dr. M.L. McLaughlin at the University of New Haven, who I had come in because we had joined their family business center to come in and mentor me and my teams. And I watched this woman who, similar to yourself, has traveled the world, has just done amazing things, and how she worked with all the different personalities on my team and how she learned to blend them together and bring out the best in them and make people accountable in such a fabulous way that I really tried very hard to emulate what I watched her do. And that really helped jettison me forward in terms of my leadership ability to work with different people and bring out the best and pull them all together. Because as I said to you earlier, I became the troubleshooter at Bigelow. So when there was a tough area, I would go in there. And if you ever need to pull a team together, try being the troubleshooter. That's exactly what you have to do. Mm-hmm. So I learned a lot from her, as well as, for me, and, you hear this all the time, you do need to have women friends, and I was very fortunate to have just a few, especially one, unfortunately, who just passed away from breast cancer, but it's terrible. We all called her our CEO, and she was just a wonderful, I could just talk to her about anything, and she gave such great counsel. She really, really did. She had worked at GE for Jack Walsh for many, many years, and she just was fantastic, Beth Davis. So, you pull in the people that you need, and you do need to know you need people. And my parents have also been a great counsel for me, especially when I was having some personal issues. They were great counsel, and I could really lean on them. So, you lean on different people for different parts of your life, but you can't do it all yourself. And I don't think you should hold it in, because I think that's very seriously a huge mistake.
Yep. No, I agree. I think that what happens is no matter what you do, eventually it comes out. And if you don't actually process it in a helpful way or in real time or close to real time, then usually it comes out in a big, bad, bold way when you least would ever want it to come out. And that can be truly career derailing, as opposed to just something that is like everybody has a bad day, right? And you move on. So.
Yeah. And that actually did start to happen to me about 4 years ago. I had a situation where my best friend was, now at the end of her stage 4 cancer. My mother was very sick at the time. My marriage was really having some it was, clear it was not going to make it. And I brought it into the office. I really did. And I had one particular episode where I really was upset, and the only words I can say is completely lost my mind. And I instantly called everybody afterwards, and I apologized. And they just looked at me like, you got to be kidding me. What was that? And I did say, this is the only time I've ever done it. I hope it'll be the only time I ever do, which, of course, thank God, I guarantee that will be. But you're right, it will come out. It will come out, and in some way or another. So we need to recognize that and recognize we're human. I think one of the issues, and I can't speak for all women, obviously, but we think we can do it all. Like, right, we can raise a family, we can run a company, we can be head in a community, we can do this, we can do that. Aren't we amazing? We're not. We can't do it all. And I am living proof. I mean, it will take its toll on you. You have to be so careful. That's the other reason why I like to work out, because I know how important it is for me to get this stuff out in every capacity possible. Yep.
And no matter where I have lived in the world, I have found a way to work out. I work out 6 days a week. Now, because I married an amazing cook, I'm not telling you that I'm lean, though. Let's be clear. I'm not. I'm over 50, and I'm genetically, my family, we're not thin. We're sturdy, right? Like, we are indestructible, but I remember as like a 22, I was probably 25. 25, I was in a hotel in South Korea, right? So I'm 25. It's like 1992 or something. And they don't have a gym, right? There is no gym in this place. And so, I am up at 5 a.m. and I'm going up and down the actual hotel, like, emergency staircase, right? I'm just going.
Oh God, do I know those days? Yeah, yes, I've done those stairwells as well,
absolutely.
Perry.
And the security people come and they say, "Ma'am, are you okay? Is there a problem?" Right? And I'm just like, "No, I'm just trying to get some exercise." And they're like, they're thinking insane. I'm like,
the number of stairwells. I know them well. That's so funny that you're sharing that. I haven't even remembered those days. But, yep, I remember doing the stairwells because that's the only thing I had access to.
Right, exactly. It was the only thing you could do. And in South Korea, to run around as a 5'9", redheaded, very pale, American female, in Lycra, this was not really a good option. So I'm like, this is the least offensive thing I can do. And I'm just gonna do 30 minutes on the stairs because I am one of those people, I have two speeds and I am, 350 miles an hour or dead stop. And so I'm too much for some people, right? And I get that, and so I do all these things because again, it's about self-awareness and modification. And so if I work out, and I don't drink too much caffeine, so I'm good, which is why I had to kind of shift away from coffee and back to iced tea, because iced tea has just the right amount of caffeine to keep me going and not so much caffeine that I want to strangle people. So it's good. It's all good.
Oh, I love that. Well, I have to put a plug in for tea here, Perry. Tea has L-theanine, or also called theanine, and theanine does great things for you. First of all, builds your T cells. That's your immune system. Therefore, that's like why they say tea is so good for you. But it also is like yoga, where it stimulates the mind but relaxes the body. And so it's great for studying, working. It's fantastic as a product. And that's why people say it relaxes them, because it has that feeling of yoga, the theanine, even though it has caffeine in it. So there you go. That's why you like tea.
That is so funny. I never knew the scientific reason why it worked for me in a way that coffee doesn't. I love coffee too, but it doesn't work when I'm trying to work. Got it. Okay. So we are now, I'm just conscious of time, we are at the fun round at this point. And so it's just a couple questions. They're not directly related to career advice, but I think they're interesting for women to hear about. So if you had one word to use to describe your professional path so far, what would it be and why?
The word would be perfect.
Oh my.
And the reason why it would be perfect is because I look at every bump, every scratch, and every bruise as making me better. I look at the fact that I appreciate every step that I had to take, everybody that I had to work with. I am blessed with every department, every job, every loss, every gain. They make me, they make the company. So there's only one word, and that was my path was perfect.
That is a lovely way to think about it. Okay, tough to top that. But if you had a superpower roundtable, and you could have, 3 to 5 women, pick your number, they could be living or not, who would you put at this round table? And it could be lunch, drinks, whatever you care to imbibe in. Iced tea, we could have tea. Who would they be and why?
Well, the first one had to be my grandmother, because she passed away when I was 6. So I would love to be able to pick her brain, just in general, about starting a family business and tea and what she went through during the Depression as an interior designer and losing everything. Angela Merkel, because I am such a fan of her strength, even if you don't agree with everything. I love the fact, right, wrong, or indifferent, that she believed that you need to let the refugees in with a strong hand on how she's dealt with some of the difficult economies. I'm a huge fan of Angela Merkel. Maya Angelou, because every one of her words absolutely inspire me. And what is the mind behind her thought process, and just could she help make me have that wisdom that she has that is totally a gift from God. And then Eleanor Roosevelt. Again, I love that strength, that feisty woman, that take no prisoners. I just would love to hear her and give me that strength and help me with my strength that I need. And then the last one you're going to laugh at. It's a dear friend of mine to this day, but I want her at the table. Her name is Lori Winters Samuel. She was the president of my class at Kellogg, and to watch her mind work. So I have a little present day and a little still current and a little past. So I like my round table. I'd like to make that happen.
I have to say that is an amazing group of women, and so different that it would be really interesting to watch how they would interact with each other. Yep, absolutely. And not a wallflower to the group. I like it.
No, not at all. No. And I would love the whole thing and watch them work together.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. We could get world peace out of that group, I bet.
Well, that's definitely.
Okay, so then the last question is, if you could do it all again, you have 2 choices. If you could do it all again, what advice would you give your younger self? Or what's the best piece of career advice you ever received?
Well, believe it or not, one of the best advice I ever got is when I was a bartender when I was 18 years old, and the bartender, Charlie, looked at me and he goes, "Never forget, Cindi, pros don't panic." And I have carried that with me ever since. Pros don't panic. So, for me, if I had to give myself, a little advice earlier on, what I would just tell myself is just to understand you're going to make mistakes and be patient. Doesn't mean you want to compromise, because I've never been a compromiser. I really don't. I don't like compromise. That doesn't mean it's not inclusive, but I don't like the word compromise. I think there's a difference. But you have to be, patient with yourself, and you have to have faith, which I think is very, very important, to know that your journey is going to have a lot of different directions to it, and that it takes time for passion to unfold. I remember many, many years ago, the president at the time said, "Gee, Cindi, we don't think you have any fire in your belly." And I was like, "What?" And I look at myself today, and I recognize if I was any more passionate, people couldn't be in the same room with me. So it does take time for that to unfold. I liked what I did. I enjoyed it. I didn't want to do anything else. I don't know if I could say I was passionate. I can today, and I don't know when that transpired, but I know I needed to be patient and give it time and have faith. So that would be the advice. Be patient, young man. I always say to my son, "Patience, grasshopper."
And how does that go down? Because my 12-year-old looks at me and goes, "Yeah, Mom, when you learn it, I'll learn it."
No, he appreciates it. He does appreciate it. He's very good at listening. He's exceptional. Both my kids are, which is a blessing. They're 23 and 25. And when I do say to them, "Look, guys, it takes a little while. Things got to unfold." And my daughter's really seeing it now. At 25, maybe years earlier, she didn't like that statement. And then my son is also, I think, doing that as well. But when you're 23, 25, you're really revved up. You're trying to make sure you're going to make your mark. What is that going to look like? How am I going to put my stamp on whatever? And that's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure for that age. It really is. I don't think I felt that at 23. Mm-hmm. I was just going to graduate school and just trying to do well in graduate school, and I knew I wanted to work at the family company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I actually have a 12-year-old and a 27-year-old. And the 27-year-old, in fact, I was working with him on a job application last night, and he's studying in Denmark right now. And so he can accept the patience thing, and he's actually very good at listening to advice and then thinking it through and coming to his own place. The 12-year-old, she's in the all sassy, know-it-all phase. And so it's, there's nothing I can say there that is going to be more wisdom than she has. So.
Yeah, but the good thing is you already know that because you've gone through it, so you're going to be, you're a good parent for that now. Maybe the first time around you were like, "Wait a minute, you're not listening to me," but the second time around you're like, "I get it, I got it covered. It's all good."
Yeah, we look at her and everybody goes, "Oh my God, she's you." So truly, exactly what you're getting there, right? And so it's like she is sassy as punch, but I'm like, I cannot hold anything against her. I know exactly where this is coming from. And the good news is I know where it's going, and it's going to be okay. We all just have to live through it. So
that's so darn adorable. Oh my God.
She's the light of my life. She's just a piece of work. At any rate, Cindi, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I know our listeners are going to get a lot out of this. And honestly, listening to this, who would not want to work at Bigelow Tea? So
you're very sweet. Thank you. I so much enjoyed our time together, Perry. This was really fun. Thank you.
You've been listening to Pivot Points, a series designed to help ambitious women have the careers and lives of their dreams. To hear more interviews, go to www.yourcareeryourterms.com. And be sure to tell us what you think. If there are topics you'd like covered or people you'd